All right. All right. Consistency bears benefits sometime, and understanding that sometimes if you want to get different results, do it differently. We getting there. Thank you everyone for joining me in a room with a special agenda again. Um, for those who took time out of their work schedule, time, personal Bible study and family worship night, time away from their family, spouses, friends. Thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. Today we're talking about something that a lot of times as parents we don't realize that we are not, and we wonder why we have problems and there's inconsistency in our household because we haven't set a standard. As parents, we start out, it's kind of a helter skelter experience. We don't know exactly where we're going. And those who, every new parent, it's a new experience. And learning how important it is to make sure that you set consistency as a standard so that you know that you are teaching your children something. But what is it that you're teaching? Sometimes we have set consistent standards, but they're not good ones. We say that we want to do better, but we don't make any plans to do better. A life without plans is a plan to fail repeatedly. And for our children, it leaves them with trust issues. As a parent, it's really important that your children know and your mate knows that you that they are a priority to you so that they can put that out into the world. My son and I were having a discussion this morning about consistency and the kind of person that you want to be. Because to me, as a parent, it's really important not the kind of job he has or the amount of money he makes, but who he puts out into the universe. And by who, I mean, are you trustworthy? Are you a person who has consistent standards for the kind of person you are? A person that doesn't have consistency as a child won't know who they are because they weren't encouraged to show a specific set of standards. It's important that they know that if you say that you're going to do something, be prepared to do that. But as parents, sometimes we try to hold them to standards that we don't display. We don't consistently decide that we are going to put him first in ways in which it may be uncomfortable. And by that I mean if other family members or work or even our friends make requests of us and say this is an emergency when it's we know it's not an emergency, will we stand on the decision that we have plans for our kids? The money that you mark for them to take them here or do this or get them this gift or prize that they earn for their hard work. Will you allow your children the privilege of seeing you follow through? Will you, if you say you're going to pick your kids up and it's your turn to pick them up, Will you decide that you're going to show them that they are a priority and pick them up? It does not matter that it is your best friend's birthday and you forgot. Make other plans with your friends. Your children are your responsibility and they were your gift. That doesn't mean you don't love your friend, but they have to understand that your children will be first. And people will test you to show so that you can show them how important you that they are to you. So they will challenge the standards and boundaries you set for your household. So far as things that you don't allow, like smoking in front of smoking in front of your children or drinking in front of your children, they'll do it so that and put it in a place in which they're challenging your loyalty. If you don't allow a certain kind of programming in front of your children, and you don't allow your children to watch that, but they're going to your friend's house and they watch that at their house, they will require that you make adjustments for them, not for your children, for them. Well, we do this here, rather than saying, well, my kids can't stay here, or I would appreciate it if you wouldn't. People will try to make your loyalty them rather than the ones that are the gift that you've been given, your children, your mate. Rules that you have in your household, even between you and your mate, people will try to interrupt that. But when it comes to parenting, it's really crucial that they see that no matter who steps forward, your morality, also your relationship with your Heavenly Father, it's important that you be the same person at your congregation or your church that you are, and with your children, that you are in front of other people, because they see that. They see things that we are unaware that they see. For instance, because my daughter has some issues and things that she deals with from time to time, we put the kids away because in the middle of the night, she may decide that she wants to take a walk in the middle of the night and we're asleep. So I said something to my husband about opening the door, and I didn't get the keys, so we hide the keys, right? Apparently, my son knows where the keys are. I don't recall showing him keys, but apparently he's seen us hide them, which I find hilarious. My husband and I looked at each other and we talked about it later and we laughed and laughed and laughed because the one thing that we thought that we were doing for their safety and well-being, he already knew where they were. And I'm saying that to say this. The things that you think you're hiding from your children, you are not. They know things about so much of your life. Besides the things that you try to hide physically, the things that you try to hide emotionally, they're aware of. How you actually um, process certain situations, how you feel about it. They know, even if you don't say anything to them. So that's why it's so important that you be consistent when it comes to setting standards, setting rules, setting regulations. Make sure that the rules that you set for them, you set those same standards for yourself. I often make jokes about the fact that I try to be light on my children when it comes to talking to them about their shortcomings when it comes to losing things. Because while you're being I'm being hard on them about that, I had to remind myself a long while back that the same children that I am correcting or something that is a human imperfection and not an intention, I apparently have the same flaw in which I misplace things and then have to ask them for their assistance. Occasionally there has been a brother too. When you say, hey, if you can help me find on car keys so we can get on up out of here, we might be able to slide by the restaurant you want to go to, I'll get you a few things you want. Maybe 2 or 3 things you want. But we running late and I need them keys. Can you help me find them? It is, or help me find my phone. Can you call it? As a parent, when you get to, even before you get to that stage, understanding that they have human imperfections and you have human imperfections will save so much grief. Understanding that you can't control everything that they do, but you can control what they see from you. Even if you understand that the other parent may be on a different page because possibly you all live in a different house. You don't handle things the same way. But it's important that you have a conversation that you all can compromise so that you can end up with the same outcome. So they get the same visual, so they get the same picture. Because it's important that you present a united front. Even if you're not a united front, they know. But you can't be inconsistent in the manner in which you conduct yourself and communicate with each other so that you have war in your house and your children have war in their spirit. And you don't help them to learn how to be who they're trying to be and the kind of person that you know they need to become and they can become, you're setting them up for chaos. And your house won't stop being chaos. It's important that you treat them like the gifts that they are by making sure that everyone around you knows who and where your priorities lie. That you won't sacrifice your children's interests for theirs, no matter who they are. Because people will take all that you'll give because they're not required to change their standards. Because your children aren't theirs. And your children aren't necessarily their priorities, no matter who they are. They may love you a great deal. They may be your parents. They may be your siblings. And your job definitely, even if they have children and maybe friends of yours, you all become like family. But your children and your household is not theirs. They may display interest. They may display concern. They may give valuable advice. But they will not step in the gap and take care of your family for you. So your children need to know that if something comes up, they will always be first. And anyone that doesn't understand that, that is something that they will struggle with. That does not mean you don't love them. That does not mean you can't be friends with them. But that means that you cannot cater to them. We're not talking about a funeral because that's different. If someone dies in the family, yes, their wishes may have to be put to the side to address that. But somebody's party, somebody's get together, someone's event can't be over your children. Now, you can't possibly discuss it with your child and let them make the decision on how they would like to handle it and what would be in their best interest. You all may be able to strike a deal, but to step on them, but not considering them, or constantly moving other people's priorities so that you can maintain their friendship, so you can maintain their approval, so that you can people please, it's not in the best interest of your child. It's not in the best interest of your mate. It's not in the best interest of any primary relationship that is a part of your everyday life. Even though your friends may be like family, and even though other siblings that you may have, or even your parents. Your children need to see that they matter, so that when you have a conversation with them about consistency in their life, about handling their chores or schoolwork, on the beginning part of their life where they're learning how to handle a job and secular obligations, because it will show up there. It will show up in their work ethic. And when you have those conversations, they can recognize the example that you set and know how they're supposed to handle things and how they can handle things without you. You're not always going to be around. Neither should you always be around. There comes a point that if your children are capable, you should allow them to do things on their own. And consistency means you've taught them. Consistency means you set up a schedule. Now, everybody's schedule isn't going to be the same, and it doesn't need to be rigid, but it needs to be something where they're learning something every day. They need to be learning self care. Oftentimes, the children whose rooms aren't clean, yeah, sometimes they are inconsistent because they're kids and they don't want to do it and they're trying to find a way out. But there are times when it is because we haven't shown them how to do what we want them to do. And showing them, for some children, doesn't mean that they look out the door and see you cleaning and that's how that's going to be done. In order for someone to learn, people sometimes people need to have hands-on assistance regularly. That means you have to guide them, not just shout, clean your room, and no one has given them step-by-step training. Sometimes it's not easy because it requires that you spend lots and lots of time right next to them, with them right up under you. And sometimes as parents, if we're not careful, particularly if you have children that are special needs, you get in the habit of doing it for them so you can make the process expedient, when that could possibly be damaging to them because they're only learning that you'll do it. And that's the consistency that you're setting up. That as long as they wait for you and have a seat, you'll do it. Sometimes we teach our children to have a seat and they never stop doing it. So later it comes back. It's a disadvantage to them and it's a disadvantage to their relationships, even on the job. They may do really well at one job, but when asked to assist in something else and they still riding a clock, they ain't done nothing else. And they don't want to do anything else. And you wonder why they keep getting consistently dismissed from the job field. It's because they only feel that they're supposed to do one particular job. When they look in their contract, it asks them to be of assistance in all positions if they have time and ability. And no one is asking them to clone their body and split it a couple of times. That's not reasonable. But those things come across from what we've taught. Everything that they do or don't do is not our responsibility or has anything to do with what we're teaching. But also, the thing that may be our fault, though, is watching our children be inconsistent and dismissing it. If that becomes a habit where we look over the things that they do rather than redirect and guide them, that'll be a problem. It's a problem now when we don't know it. Teaching our children that it's important that we understand that we learn to self-regulate if we can, and how to self-regulate in moments of overwhelm as they get older. Because it is doable, even in the special needs community. They're getting the help that they need. Also, that's important. Them watching us have problems and not getting help is something that's a pattern that we don't want to teach. Because when they get older, it would be important that we teach them to get help and teach them where to get help and how to get help. But we need to do that by consistently doing it ourselves. Self-care is getting mental health assistance if things are getting overwhelming, if it's getting hard, if parenting is becoming too much, because sometimes it can be. That's something that needs to be said without shame. Because as parents, sometimes we are ashamed into believing that there shouldn't be any hard moments and that no one can know that we're coming undone. The instances where parents hurt themselves or hurt their children, is heartbreaking. Because if we would take the time to consistently encourage our friends and family members to communicate with us without shame, in a place of space and safety, it would change so much of the things that happen around us. If we would allow them to understand that they should not be ashamed of having a hard time or be ashamed because of the fact that they had children, whether they be multiples, whether they're by different parents, whatever the situation was. No one knows something's going to be hard until they get into it. And what those situations aren't our business, our concern. If you knew someone that you loved was playing in the street and they got hit by a car when they were younger, but you were both all old enough to be able to communicate with adults, the time in which you take to get them their help, get care and help for them is much more crucial than giving them a conversation at that time while they're laying there near death. That's not the moment to talk to them about why they were in the road. Because at this point, how would that help? It wouldn't save anyone. And at that point, it doesn't matter why they're there. It doesn't matter that it's their fault. Right now, it's time to get them help. And when we have friends that have gotten into situations where they have multiples and whatever their life is, getting help is important. Helping them understand that they're still loved and not discussing things that you can't change. There's an unspoken rule where they say anything that can't be changed in 15 minutes may not be worth discussing. And anything that you can't change anyway is not valid. It's not important. All the other things that you want to discuss surrounding that is dirty dishwater. You might as well just let it out. Let it go. Because all they need at that moment is support. Take the time to show those ones that you love that they matter. And your children, utmost. Someone said that the people that they love, even if they're hurting them, won't stop being loved by them. All they'll know is that they'll love themselves less. Let that not be the consistent message that you're sending to their children, that the mistakes that they make them unlovable, and that other people are more important than them. That the way that you correct them is based on other people's opinions and what they see versus who your children are and what you know is effective. Don't pick a time to discipline your children where it is an attempt to humiliate them in an attempt to make yourself look like a better parent. It won't help them. It'll only kill their spirit. And in time, they may look back and decide that the relationship they have with you is not worth keeping or cultivating. Keep that in mind. Sometimes they eventually get the common sense that you thought they didn't have. And what they let go of might be you. Keep that in mind. Continue to love each other no matter what other people say. They are important. Those around us that make mistakes are important. The mistakes that they made, particularly if it does not involve you, are not important. God doesn't consistently point out yours. Don't consistently point out theirs. You have a good evening. Be great to each other. Good night. Good night.